My brother secretly took out a loan in my name. My parents told me to pay it off and stay quiet. But when I reported it as fraud, they gave me an ultimatum. Drop it, or you're out of the family. My response? Enjoy your golden child. I'm done. I still remember the exact moment my world turned upside down. I was sitting in my tiny apartment, sipping on my first cup of coffee that Saturday morning, enjoying the rare peace of having no obligations for the day. My phone buzzed with an email notification. Your payment is overdue. Please remit $3,572 immediately to avoid penalties. I frowned, my heart skipping a beat. I didn't have any loans. I wasn't behind on any payments. Hell, I was the kind of person who paid my credit card bill the second I used it just to avoid debt. I clicked the email open and read through it again. It was from a bank I didn't recognize, tied to a loan I had never applied for. At first, I assumed it was some kind of scam, but then I noticed the details, my name, my address, even my social security number. This wasn't a phishing attempt. It was real. A cold wave of realization washed over me as I dialed the bank's customer service. The woman on the other end was polite but firm. Yes, the loan was taken out under my name. No, it wasn't a mistake. The funds had been deposited 3 months ago into an account that was suspiciously familiar, an account that belonged to my brother, Mark. Mark. My stomach churned. There had to be a mistake. There was no way my own brother would. And then it hit me. FLASHBACK. Just trust me, David. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Mark's voice was filled with his usual unshakable enthusiasm, the kind that had gotten him into and out of more failed ventures than I could count. I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my temples. Mark, the last once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, you dragged me into cost me 10 grand. I still haven't recovered from that mess. That was different, he argued. That startup had issues, bad management. But this is solid. We're talking about an AI-driven financial assistant that's going to change the way people invest. The market is shifting, and if we get in early. I sighed. How much? His eyes lit up. If we both put in 25 grand each, we'll be listed as founding investors. That means when the company goes public. I held up a hand. No, absolutely not. I can't do that again, Mark. His excitement dimmed, but only for a second. Okay. What if you don't invest directly? What if you just help me secure a loan, temporarily, just to get my foot in the door? I shot him a sharp look. What do you mean, secure a loan? He shifted in his seat, playing it off as casual. Just a simple document, general power of attorney. It would let me handle some financial transactions in your name. Strictly for the investment, nothing else. You know I'd never do anything to screw you over. I hesitated. Mark was reckless, but he wasn't a bad person. He was my brother. He had big dreams, and I had seen firsthand how hard he worked to make them happen. This is the last time, I said firmly, grabbing a pen. If this goes south, I'm done. No more investments, no more schemes. You want money? Go get a job like everyone else. Mark grinned and clapped me on the shoulder. You won't regret this, bro. We're gonna make millions. We made exactly 0. The startup went under within 6 months. The founders disappeared, and Mark was left scrambling to pay off debts. He begged me for more time, swearing he'd fix it. I refused. I told him I was done funding his dreams, that he needed to grow up and face reality. That was the last time we spoke about it. Or so I thought. Present. I stared at the email on my phone, my stomach twisting. The general power of attorney. That's how he did it. That's how he had taken out a loan in my name without me knowing. He still had access, and he had used it. My phone rang. Mom. I answered, my voice tight. Did you know about this? Her sigh told me everything. David, listen. I cut her off. He took out a loan in my name, Mom. That's fraud. Mark was in a rough spot, she said quickly. He thought he could pay it back before you noticed. I let out a bitter laugh. Oh, great. That makes everything fine. Then, no problem. He stole my identity, but as long as he intended to pay it back, I should just let it go, right? David, keep your voice down, she hissed. We don't need to make this a bigger deal than it is. Mom, this is a big deal. I could press charges. She exhaled sharply. You won't do that, David. I clenched my jaw. Why not? Because if you do, you'll ruin his life. You'll ruin our family's reputation. There it was. The real reason. It's just money, she continued. You have a stable job. You can afford to pay it off. Mark can't. I felt something inside me snap. Let me get this straight. Mark commits fraud, and instead of being mad at him, you're mad at me for not just sucking it up. You don't have to be dramatic. Dramatic? Mom, this is illegal. There was a pause. Then, her voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. You're going to pay off that loan, and you're going to keep your mouth shut. That's what a good son would do. I hung up without another word. I sat there for a long time, staring at my phone, my mind racing. My own mother had just told me to pay off a fraudulent loan and keep quiet, because that's what a good son would do. I should have seen this coming. Mark had always been reckless, always chasing the next big idea, always swearing that he was one step away from making it big. And every time he failed, someone else, usually me, was left cleaning up his mess. Not this time. I grabbed my jacket and keys, heading straight to my parents' house. The moment I stepped inside, I could feel the tension in the air. My mother was in the kitchen, arms crossed, lips pressed into a thin line. My father sat in his recliner, flipping through a newspaper like nothing was happening. And Mark was sitting on the couch, his phone in one hand, a beer in the other, looking bored. David, listen. My mother started, but I held up a hand. Where's the money? I demanded, staring directly at Mark. He blinked, then smirked like this was some minor inconvenience. What money? The loan. The one you took out in my name. Where is it? He scoffed. Relax, man. It's not like I blew it all at a casino. I clenched my fists. Then where is it? Mark shrugged. It went into a business investment, just like last time. You know how it works. I cut him off. No, Mark. I know how it doesn't work. Because every single time you lose everything. So tell me, where's my money? He leaned back against the couch, taking a sip of his beer. David, chill. I just need a little more time. The deal's still in progress. A little more time? I repeated, laughing bitterly. You lied, Mark. You stole from me. And you want me to be patient. It's not like you're struggling, he muttered under his breath. I saw red. You think that because I work hard, because I have a stable job, that I'm just supposed to accept this? That it's my responsibility to fix your mistakes? David, lower your voice, my father said, finally looking up from his paper. We don't need to start a scene. I turned to him, incredulous. A scene? You think I'm making a scene? Dad, do you even hear yourselves? You're protecting a con artist just because he's your son. Newsflash. I'm your son too. Mark just made a mistake, my mother said, her voice laced with forced calm. It's not worth destroying the family over. I let out a hollow laugh. Destroying the family? That's rich. Mark destroyed this family years ago. But you keep pretending he's just a misunderstood genius. My brother scoffed. You've always been so dramatic. That was it. You know what? I said, my voice eerily calm. You fixed this yourself. Mark blinked. What? You heard me. This is your debt. Not mine. Not Mom and Dad's. Yours. You're gonna pay it back, or you're gonna deal with the consequences. My mother stiffened. David, please. I turned to her. No. You had your chance to do the right thing and you chose him. So now I choose me. Mark sat forward, his smirk finally fading. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What are you saying? I stepped closer. I'm saying that I'm not paying that loan. I'm calling the bank first thing Monday and reporting it as fraud. You can explain yourself to them. His face paled. David, come on. You don't want to do that. Actually, I said, grabbing my keys. I really, really do. Then I walked out, slamming the door behind me. I barely made it through the night without smashing something. My mind kept replaying the conversation. The way my parents had defended him like he was some helpless child. The audacity of it all. But nothing could have prepared me for what came next. The next morning, I drove straight to Mark's apartment. I wasn't going to wait around, I wanted answers. When he opened the door, he looked far too relaxed for someone who had just committed fraud. He was in sweatpants, sipping coffee, his phone in one hand. "David," he said, smirking. "You're up early." I pushed past him into the apartment. "We need to talk," he sighed dramatically, shutting the door. "Let me guess. About the loan?" I clenched my jaw. "Absolutely right about the loan. You stole from me, Mark. You took out a loan in my name and spent the money. You're going to fix this." He exhaled like he was already bored of the conversation. "Oh, come on. It's not that serious." I stepped closer. "Not that serious? You put me in debt without my consent. I've already contacted the bank. They're investigating." That's when it happened. Mark didn't panic. He didn't stutter or try to explain. Instead, he leaned against the kitchen counter and smiled. "Let them investigate," he said, taking a sip of coffee. I frowned. "What are you talking about?" He smiled, shaking his head as if I completely misunderstood the situation. David, you gave me power of attorney, remember?" I froze. Mark saw my reaction and chuckled. "Oh, now you remember, huh? You signed over legal authority for me to handle financial transactions in your name. So technically, I didn't do anything wrong." My stomach turned to stone. "You abused that power, Mark." He shrugged. "Call it what you want. The fact is, I had legal permission to take out that loan. So go ahead, report it. See how far it gets you." I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. "Are you serious right now?" I asked, my voice deadly quiet. He smirked. "Look, I intended to pay it back. It's not my fault the investment didn't pan out." I could barely breathe. "So that's it? You're just gonna walk away from this? Let me deal with your debt." He spread his arms. "What debt? You took out the loan. The bank sees it as your responsibility." The arrogance, the smugness, the sheer audacity of it. For a moment, I just stared at him, realizing something I should have known a long time ago. Mark didn't just fail at life, he counted on other people to clean up after him. And now he was counting on me doing it again. But not this time. I stepped back, breathing deeply, forcing myself to stay calm. "You really think you're untouchable, don't you?" He grinned. "I know I am." I nodded slowly. "We'll see about that." Then I turned and walked out. Because if Mark thought I was going to roll over and accept this, he had another thing coming. I drove home gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Mark had just admitted everything, and yet he had no fear, no remorse. He truly believed he had outplayed me. But he had made one mistake. He underestimated just how done I was with him. The moment I got home, I pulled out every document I had. My old emails, the original power of attorney papers, every text he had sent me about that doomed investment. I started researching fraud cases, reading up on legal loopholes, and making a list of every possible way I could hold him accountable. This wasn't going to be like the other times. This time, Mark was going to learn. The next evening, I got the inevitable call. My mother. "David," she sighed the moment I picked up, already sounding exhausted. "We need to talk." "Do we?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "Yes," she snapped. "Come to the house. Now." I could have said no. I could have just hung up. But I wanted this conversation. I wanted to look them all in the eye when I told them exactly what was coming. I walked into the house, and it was like stepping into an intervention. My mother was seated at the dining table, my father beside her, arms crossed. Mark, of course, was lounging on the couch like he had nothing to worry about. "Dinner's almost ready," my mother said, her tone far too casual. I didn't sit. "I'm not here to eat." She pursed her lips. "David, you're making this bigger than it needs to be." I laughed dryly. "I'm making this bigger? Mom, Mark stole from me." "David, it's not that much," my father interjected, waving a hand dismissively. "Let's not make a scene over a little money." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A little money? Are you kidding me? My mother sighed dramatically. Look, we talked to Mark, and he will pay you back. Mark scoffed. Eventually. I shot him a glare before turning back to them. No, he won't. And you know it. David, my father said, pinching the bridge of his nose. We can cover it. We'll pay the loan, and you can just drop this whole thing. I clenched my jaw. You're willing to bail him out again? My mother leaned forward, voice softening, like she thought she could still control me. Sweetheart, just let this go. Your family. Family forgives. I shook my head. Family doesn't do what he did. Come on, my father said. It's not like he robbed you. Yes, I cut in coldly. He did. Mark rolled his eyes, leaning back in his chair. God, you're so dramatic. I turned to him, stepping closer. You think this is a game, don't you? You think you can keep using people, and there'll be no consequences. Relax, man, he smirked. You can't do anything. I had legal authorization. The bank sees you as the borrower. So yeah, call the cops, sue me, whatever. It won't go anywhere. I leaned in slightly, just enough so he could see the fury in my eyes. Watch me. His smirk faltered for the first time. I turned back to my parents. And if you think this time I'm going to be the good son who just fixes everything, you're dead wrong. David, my mother warned. No, I snapped. Enough. I have let him get away with this for years. I let you two make excuses for him. I let you guilt me into fixing his messes. But this time, he crossed the line. My father sighed. So what, you're going to ruin your own brother's life? I stared at him. No. He ruined it himself. Mark scoffed. You're bluffing. I smiled. You'll find out soon enough. Then I turned and walked out, slamming the door behind me, because I had already made up my mind. I was pressing charges. The next morning, I was sitting across from a lawyer, a man named Richard Hayes. He was in his mid-40s, sharp-eyed, and completely no-nonsense. After listening to everything I laid out, he leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. You've got a solid case, he said. Your brother may have had power of attorney, but the way he used it, taking out personal loans without your direct consent, could absolutely be considered financial abuse. If we push hard enough, we could argue fraud. I exhaled slowly, letting the reality of it sink in. What happens next? I'll start by drafting a formal complaint to the bank, stating that you're disputing the debt and alleging fraudulent misuse of power of attorney. If the bank takes your side, they'll report it as a crime. If they don't, we go to law enforcement ourselves. I nodded. Do it. Richard studied me for a moment. Are you ready for this? Once we file, it's out of your hands. If charges stick, your brother could be looking at some serious legal trouble. I clenched my jaw. Good. By the next afternoon, the fallout had begun. It started with my mother. She called 6 times before I finally picked up. David, she screeched before I could even say hello. What did you do? I stayed calm. I filed a fraud report, since Mark stole from me. He did not steal from you, she shrieked. You gave him permission. I sighed. I gave him permission to act in my best interest, not to take out a loan and blow the money on another failed get-rich-quick scheme. He was going to pay you back. I laughed bitterly. Oh yeah? With what money? Silence. Then she tried a different tactic. David, please. Think about what this will do to him. If the bank rules against him, they could involve the police. This could ruin his future. I felt a cold, detached kind of anger settle over me. Mom, he ruined his own future. Not me. I'm done saving him. David. I hung up. The next one to show up was my father. He came to my apartment unannounced that evening, knocking like a cop serving a warrant. I considered ignoring him, but eventually, I let him in. He didn't waste time. Son, this is a mistake. I folded my arms. No, Dad. The mistake was letting Mark get away with this crap for years. He sighed. The bank called your brother. They froze the loan, pending investigation. Good. You need to drop this, he said, his voice low and serious. If you don't, things are going to escalate. The bank could turn this into a full criminal case. Again. Good. He exhaled sharply, pinching the bridge of his nose. David, you're being stubborn. Mark isn't a bad person. I slammed my hand against the table, making him jump. Stop. My voice was like ice. Stop making excuses for him. He's a con artist. And I will make sure he faces consequences. My father gave me a hard look. You're really going to do this? Tear the family apart over money? I laughed bitterly. No, Dad. Mark tore this family apart the second he decided to screw me over and not feel an ounce of guilt about it. My father sighed, rubbing his temples. Fine. We'll pay off the loan. Just drop this before it gets worse. I shook my head. No. If you pay it off, he gets away with it again. He'll just do it to someone else next time. Maybe to you. His mouth tightened, but he had no response. I stepped forward. This isn't about the money. This is about him learning that he can't do this anymore. Silence stretched between us. Then my father's expression hardened. If you go through with this, he said slowly, you won't just lose Mark. You'll lose us too. I held his gaze. Then so be it. For the first time in my life, I saw something crack in his eyes, like he had never actually considered the possibility that I might walk away from them entirely. Get out, I said quietly. He hesitated for a moment, then turned and left without another word. That night I got a single text from Mark. You really think you won, huh? This isn't over. I stared at the screen, my jaw tightening. No, it wasn't over. But soon it would be, because I was finally done playing his game. The next few days were chaos. My phone didn't stop ringing, calls from my mother, my father, even a few relatives who had magically decided to care now that things were getting serious. I ignored most of them. Then the official letter arrived. The bank had finished its preliminary investigation. They had determined that Mark had misused the power of attorney for personal financial gain. The loan was frozen pending legal action, and they were forwarding the case to the authorities. I sat in silence for a long time, staring at the letter. It was happening. Mark was finally going to face real consequences. The next time I heard from him, it wasn't a text. It was a pounding on my front door. I opened it to find him standing there, breathing hard, eyes wild. He looked different, less cocky, more desperate. You think you've won? He spat the moment I stepped outside. You think you're so much better than me? I folded my arms. I don't think I'm better than you, Mark. I just know I'm not a criminal. He let out a bitter laugh. You're ruining my life over a little money. I narrowed my eyes. You stole from me, lied to me, and you don't even feel bad about it. I was gonna pay you back, he yelled. You didn't have to escalate it so much. You weren't going to pay me back, Mark? I said, my voice calm but firm. You were going to keep stalling, keep making excuses, keep hoping someone else would fix it for you, just like every other time. He clenched his fists. Mom and Dad are furious with you. They said if you don't drop this, you're out of the family. I exhaled slowly. Then I guess I'm out of the family. Mark's mouth opened, then closed. He looked genuinely thrown, like the idea had never even occurred to him. You're serious? He asked, his voice quieter. Completely. His expression twisted. You're such a jerk. You know that? I tilted my head. You stole from me, and I'm the selfish one? Mark scowled, then took a step closer. You're going to regret this. I smiled coldly. No, Mark. You are. And then I shut the door in his face. A week later, the real fallout began. Mark was officially under investigation for financial fraud. His bank accounts were frozen. His credit was ruined. The loan, now considered fraudulent, had been voided from my record, but it wasn't disappearing. Mark was responsible for it now. My parents called one last time. David. My mother's voice was thin, shaky. Please. He's facing real charges. They might arrest him. I didn't say anything. He's your brother, she pleaded. We're your family. I took a slow breath. No, Mom. You made your choice. You chose him. And now you can live with that. There was a long silence. Then, in a small, broken voice, She whispered, "So that's it. That's it." I hung up. Mark took the plea deal, avoided jail time but ended up in massive debt, with a black mark on his record that would follow him for years. He never spoke to me again. My parents? They tried at first. But when they realized I wasn't coming back, wasn't caving, they eventually stopped calling. It should have hurt. Didn't, because for the first time in my life, I was free, and I was never looking back.